The Outlands just doesn't sleep, but I have to sometimes, so that means I'm a little late to this image here, and this image here, we'll come back to that. But we're finally here on the farm, examining the second Valk teaser, Seeding the Soil. I'm obviously using that as a stand-in name for now. We don't know what the new legend is called, but based on the leaks, Flying Legend, Northstar, etc. We'll come back to that. I'm going to be referring to them as Valk for now. It's just easier than the Season 9 legend all the time. But, as we can see from this image, playing off some of the reveals we got in the original teaser, we see a few elements that tie us back, firstly, to the Japanese heritage of this legend. Pretty sure this is one of the sort of like sliding paper doors that you have in Japanese houses, potentially older ones, unsure on that exactly. We've obviously got the sakura petals. I think this is more like an orchid looking down here, unsure. And then obviously the noodles. I do really like that food is a big sort of part of giving us this legend's personality. It makes them feel very like down to earth, very like real, do you know? Nice, just a very simple addition to do, while also giving us a little bit more of a clue to their heritage. You could also take the orange jacket as a little bit of a hint as well, because this screams Canada of Akira fame. If we can get this character on some crazy souped up motorbike, the weeb inside me is gonna like scream in delight. That would be great to see, especially if Valk's Canada has her own Tetsuo in someone like Ash to deal with. We then have a grant deed here, which I've seen people pull up. It's actually like a famous real-life deed. I'm assuming it is just meant to be the deed for this property, wherever this property exactly is. We'll come back to that very shortly. Obviously, the deed has been left for Valk by what looks like their parent. I am honestly unsure if this would be a mother or father from just looking at it like this. Quite like the pet chicken. And we then have the note down the bottom that shows that evidently the place was bought for Valk, wherever exactly like home is. Again, makes you think of Typhon, which as that doesn't exist anymore, makes sense to be being almost replaced, right? The urn over here does make me think that the parent has died. How exactly the parent has died, especially when we consider, again, the title of the stories from the Outlands being Northstar, and the idea of a flying legend that's linked to the apex predators and the frontier. I'm also thinking that this is possibly another hint that we're in the frontier, as Titans were originally used as farming equipment. Could just suggest that not only is this character heavily impacted by the history of the Titanfall universe, but they've actually been living throughout the frontier to have experienced the aftermath of the Frontier War properly, which we really haven't. Out in the Outlands especially, we don't know how the frontier has changed. We do know that Bangalore travelled from the frontier to the Outlands in the space of a year. If you check my Voidwalker's pilot knife, the Bangalore vs. Wraith chapter, I talk about some Pathfinder's quest info that Bangalore tells us that she travelled from the frontier, Gridiron, to the Outlands in the space of a year using a shard of the Ark from Typhon, which allowed them to make the 20-year journey in a year. Suddenly makes you think, how did Valk get from the frontier, or Typhon, which is again in the frontier, it seems much closer to Gridiron than the Outlands is. How did she manage to make a 20-year jump in 3 years? Because she's here. She's in the Outlands now, right? Makes you wonder if she actually got her hands on some unrefined Branthium and was able to use it to jump through space-time. Which, I think we know a character who's going to want to know how she did that to make the return trip, right? So, this image seems to be, again, really confirming for us the link between this character and Frontier specifically. Their parent passed away and they inherited this lovely abode here. Their parent maybe seems to have come with them. This thing, I have no idea what this is. Like, again, a refinement of Branthium, although it looks like wooden or natural or a pair of testes? I don't know. Like, that's the weirdest element of possibly all three of these teasers. I have no idea what this is trying to hint at. Although it certainly is now the most interesting element, because I have no idea what it is. I've got a little Nessie over here. Set Hellboy comics, Pathfinder's Quest. I'm just ignoring that that exists. It just destroys all form of logical canonicity. But it's fun, right? Absolutely great. I'm very glad to see that they have been keeping up the pace with these teasers. Like, I literally missed this one because I was asleep. By the time I woke up, this one was releasing. I'm going to do a separate video on this, following this video now, because this one has all of its own sort of things to talk about. We then have the teaser image for the new Stories of the Outlands coming out tomorrow, seeming to feature our new character, whoever they are, and, as I speculated in my first video, to an extent, they seem to have an immediate connection to Rampart. So we're going to be talking about that in a separate video, because Rampart has also shown, in some earlier teaser images, a connection back to elements of the frontier, such as Viper's Titan. Do I want this character to be linked to Viper? No. Personally, Viper is the worst Apex Predator. He was the most boring character out of the lot. His boss fight was fun, but I dislike Viper. I kinda don't want this character to be anything to do with them, unless this character being linked to Viper. If this was Viper, that makes Viper so much more interesting and relatable of a character, immediately. That instead of being this jackass who took themselves way too fucking seriously, they were actually just like a caring dad. That's kind of nice, right? That would personally be a great expansion on that character in retrospect, and it would do a lot for Valk as they turn up. Again, I kind of hope it's not the case, because I fucking just hate Viper. I think he's really a shit character. But what can come from it could actually be quite promising. So, with that, I'm going to immediately just jump off and record my second video about this today, so that's enough for me for now. Go check my analysis of the first teaser if you're interested in hearing my thoughts fully. Go check my video on Bangalore and Wraith's comic chapter, because I think that actually might be giving us some hints into the future of Valk's storylines. And then hopefully, later today, come back and I'll see you for this image as soon as I can. Thanks for staying with me, friends. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates. And may the glorious light of Beskil shine within you. Bye-bye.